Good morning, people, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. It's morning for me. There's sun coming up, as you can probably tell. So I'm going to shoot several videos today, and this is my first one. And this is at the request of a number of people over the last few months who have found me on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, and they wanted me to just give a little more background on what my history is like, my professional history. And I had mentioned in a number of videos that I worked with a private equity firm for 20 years, or about 21 years, 87 to 2008. And my job with that private equity firm, I can describe in a number of different ways, and all of which would be accurate, but I really thought of myself as a hunter, because I was out looking at companies for us to acquire. And we were a boutique private equity firm, meaning that we didn't have, $500 billion to invest. We had a much smaller amount of money to invest, but it was still significant. But what we found our specialty to be is buying companies that were underperforming, that were typically small, and maybe at most a regional sized company. And then we would buy multiple companies in that sector, combine them, and then 3 to 5 years down the road, we would turn around and sell those to a much larger competitor. Or in some cases, we would sell them to a buyer that we had already identified before we even started investing in that segment. So specifically, I spent a lot of time buying things that were related to the building industry. So we bought a lot of builders, these guys that were out here, general contractors that were out here doing, 12 or 20 houses a year, when there was potential in their market for a company their size that had better management to come in and maybe build 50 or 100 houses a year. They just didn't have all the skills they needed to scale their business. So we would go into an area and we might buy 10 or 12 builders that kind of fit that description, and we would combine them all into a larger company, and combined we might go in then and build, depending on the size of the homes, we might build anywhere from 100 to 600 houses a year. But I was not a builder. I just found building companies and identified those companies, and we would go in and make them an offer and buy them out. But everything I've done since the mid-'80s has been directed at finding opportunities that are scalable. I think it's in my DNA. I have no interest in anything that is not scalable. So in 2008, I was already selling on Amazon. I've been selling on Amazon as just really a hobby. I wouldn't even call it a side hustle, because I think these days when people talk about side hustles, they're talking about looking for extra income. But I needed an escape from what was a fairly high pressure job through all those years. And if my hobby can also make some money, then I'm happy. But it wasn't even really a money making venture for me to start selling Amazon. It was more a situation, I just wanted to see what kind of opportunity might be there. I was in the first group of people that signed on to Amazon as what they called an Amazon merchant at the time. This was the very first year that that you were able to sell on Amazon as an individual. So in any case, it had just kind of, I wouldn't say languished. I maintained it. The business did well. It made money from the first year forward. But it wasn't my first focus, not by a long shot. But it was back there just growing steadily for a number of years. So in 2008, when I left private equity, I spent several years looking for something to kind of focus my efforts on and focus my energy on. And then it hit me one day that, wait a minute, maybe a good focus for my energy is something that's right there in front of me, which at the time was Amazon. So I started thinking about the Amazon more as a source of income. There was if you'll recall, around 2008, there was a lot of stuff going on in the world, but in the U.S. in particular, with the banking crisis, and a lot of opportunities in a lot of different areas had really kind of just dried up for the time being. But I had this Amazon business that was pumping along pretty steady without almost any input at all. Pretty much a passive business. I mean, I maybe spent 2 or 3 hours a month paying attention to it. But I decided to focus my energy and efforts into Amazon and started building out a product portfolio, and started doing so with intention. Again, with the intention to create not only a scalable business, but a resilient business, one that would weather the storms of recession, depression, whatever was going to come. I wanted a business that had the structure, and in this case, really the product portfolio, to always have something that people would need no matter what the financial state of the world was. And that's what got me started on boring products. For those of you that have worked with me, you know what my boring products are. I don't go into great detail on my general videos, but I tell people it's everyday household stuff. It's things that you need. If you're alive and you're breathing, I'd probably sell something you need. And that's how I want it to be. I want to sell things that are essential for people's lives. I'm not looking to sell them passion things that they just get excited about, but as soon as their economic situation declines a little bit, they're not doing that anymore. They can't engage in their hobbies. They can't buy themselves luxuries. I want to sell them things that they have to have. Pretty much household items, or things that are just consistent with just living and breathing, and things that you have to have. I've heard this from an early age, but food, clothing, and shelter. You can't live without any of those things. So I tend to focus my energies on products in those areas. These days, now that I've grown significantly, there are times where I do get involved in things outside those areas. But what I'll do then is I'll usually build out a product portfolio and what I would think of as a non-core area for me, with the intention of 2 to 3 years down the road, possibly selling that portfolio to another Amazon seller once I've built it out and have it up and running. So I do a lot of different things, but one of the underlying themes is that I'm looking for scalable businesses. I'm looking for scalable products to sell, markets that I can scale into. I'm really not interested in going out here and just trying to pound one product or two products down the throat of reluctant buyers. I want to sell the things that people need at prices they can afford, make it a product that they're going to be happy they bought, and hopefully do repeat business with them. Because again, a major part of scaling is to do repeat business with the client base that you've already found. One of the most expensive things in any type of retail sales is finding the client. You have an investment in finding that client almost always, and once you have them and once you've identified them, one of the least expensive things you can do as someone selling into the retail market is to sell that same client again and again and again. So that's kind of a little bit of backstory on that. The other part of the story is that one of my influences for this, and I'm being completely serious, was the movie The Heartbreak Kid. Ben Stiller movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie, but if you haven't seen it, spend a couple of hours and watch it. But in this movie, he owned a sporting goods store, and in a small town somewhere in mid-America. I don't remember where it was supposed to be exactly, but he owned a sporting goods store. And while on vacation, he saw a guy selling sporting goods in a coastal town, basically right on the beach. And the thought was that if why would you work somewhere, in a small town, if you love the beach, if you love, this resort area, why not just open your business there? And then every day you're on vacation. So a major part of the influence and me deciding to stick with an online business model as opposed to a brick and mortar business model and maybe go back into private equity is that I wanted to be able to work from anywhere in the world. I'm not necessarily a beach person, but I wanted to be able to work in the mountains, in a city, wherever I might find myself. I wanted to be able to work on the beach, near the beach. But basically the idea here is that I was going to become something of a digital nomad, or at least a business owner with a digital nomad component built into my business. I wanted to be able to work from a laptop anywhere I had an internet connection. And that pretty much limited me to, well, I shouldn't say limited, it focused me on an online business model. And with that in mind, I applied myself very successfully to building out my Amazon business. I came up with a template. I'm a big believer in identifying reasons that you're successful or reasons that you're not, and then really duplicating your successes. So I came up with a business template for Amazon that has served me well, and it saw me go from $1 million in sales to $3 million in sales in 3 years, and then from 3 million to 5 million in 2 years, and then from 5 million to 8 million in 2 more years, and then from 8 million to well over $10 million in 2 more years. So, and then I've also been able to sustain that. I've been over $10 million a year now for 5 consecutive years, and I have pretty much stopped growing the business, and I focus most of my time now on I focus most of my time still on the business, but I do a significant amount of teaching and consulting, and I speak a lot to groups of entrepreneurs who are looking for some assistance in growing their online businesses. And with that said, I'll pretty much end it here, but just to finish off with one last question that's part of this. When people say, well, why don't you just keep growing your business? And these are usually people that don't have a business when they ask that. They just haven't lived this before. But once you get to a certain point, the difference for me in running a $10 million a year Amazon business versus a $20 million a year Amazon business, it's not going to change a thing in my life. I'm not going to live any differently. I'll have more money in theory, but I'm not going to live any differently. I live well already. I travel extensively, and I don't want to really do anything that's going to rock that boat. For me to double from where I'm at now, $10 to $20 million, I think I could do that in 2 years without a problem. But I think I would also have to hire at least 1, probably 2 more employees. I have 2 currently that do a great job, and we've got a very efficient, very lean operation. And that's also been one of the factors I'll speak about in another video about how to run a business online, because I see a lot of people, before they're ever really up and running, they hire a bunch of VAs and they sign up for a bunch of software they don't need, and they end up folding under their own weight because they have too much overhead for their current level of business. But that's a different story for a different day. But I just wanted to address the question of why don't I keep growing? Because some people think that unlimited, never-ending growth is the goal, and for some people it is. And if you're that person, well, you might want to see a psychologist, because that's a marker for someone that has a psychological issue. Because once you get to a certain level of comfort in life, to keep pushing and pushing and pushing for financial gain is psychologically it's a marker for some bad things. But I'll close this out with a story taking us back to like a Mexican beach. I'm going to go through this very quickly here, but there's a story about this Mexican fisherman who has a successful business fishing, and he's out in a hammock one day, laying on the beach playing with his grandkids, and this the story goes, this high-powered New York venture capitalist sees him. She's on vacation, and she approaches him and says, let me help you grow your business. And he said, well, why? And she says, well, you could have a fleet of boats. And he said, but why? Well, once you have the fleet of boats, then you open your own fish packing company. And why would I do that? Well, then you can turn around and in 10 or 15 years, you can sell your business for a lot of money. And he said, okay, and then what? Well, then you could do whatever you wanted. And he said, well, look at me, I'm doing whatever I want to right now. That philosophy, as well as the philosophy I spoke about at the beginning of the video from Ben Stiller about living your life location independent to whatever level of independence you want, but having the ability to live your life wherever you like, work whenever you like, those are the guiding factors for me. And Amazon has served me well. I've had many other ventures online with Shopify and eBay, which I'm still involved with. You know, they've all served me well. All of them have been successful, and they've all contributed to the life that I have now. So I'm really not looking to change anything, but I'd like to help other people get to the same point that I'm at. That's now my motivation for kind of continuing and getting up and making these videos, and just trying to help other people get to a level where they're as comfortable as I am, and that's about all I know. So in any case, hey, if you haven't done so already, hit like and subscribe. I'm out here trying to help people, and like and subscribe helps me help you. So we'll see you in the next video. Take care.